A long time ago, Earth was silent and empty, with no visible life, no movement, and no signs of activity anywhere. For billions of years, this young planet remained unchanged, with only oceans, volcanic landscapes, and a harsh environment shaping its surface. But deep beneath the ancient oceans, something small and invisible had already begun to exist and slowly develop over time. Life first appeared as single-celled organisms, far too small to be seen, yet capable of surviving in extreme conditions. Some of these early microbes thrived near hydrothermal vents, where heat and chemicals created one of the first habitats for life. The planet itself was violent and unstable, filled with constant volcanic eruptions, toxic gases, and extreme environmental conditions. There was no breathable air, and oxygen was almost completely absent, making the atmosphere deadly for most forms of life. Yet life adapted to this oxygen-free world, surviving and evolving in ways that allowed it to continue despite harsh conditions. Over time, some organisms drifted closer to the surface, where sunlight could finally reach them and provide a new source of energy. There, evolution unlocked one of the most important breakthroughs in the history of life on Earth. Some organisms evolved the ability to capture sunlight and convert it into usable energy through a process we now call photosynthesis. As they performed this process, they released oxygen into the surrounding water, slowly changing the chemistry of the oceans. Over time, oxygen began spreading across vast areas, gradually transforming the environment that early life depended on for survival. For many existing organisms, oxygen was toxic, causing widespread die-offs and dramatically reshaping the balance of life. Entire populations disappeared as conditions shifted, marking one of the first major extinction events in Earth's history. This transformation is known as the Great Oxygenation Event, a turning point that permanently changed the planet and its atmosphere. Some organisms adapted to the new conditions, and those that survived gained a powerful advantage in this evolving environment. Oxygen allowed cells to produce far more energy than before, unlocking new possibilities for growth and complexity. With this increased energy, life became more active, more structured, and capable of developing new forms and behaviors. Eventually, the first complex cells appeared, containing internal structures that allowed them to function more efficiently and effectively. These complex cells, known as eukaryotes, became the foundation for all advanced life forms that would appear in the future. If this is making you see the world differently, hit like and subscribe. But another breakthrough soon followed, as cells began working together instead of surviving only as individual organisms. Some groups of cells remained connected, forming stable structures that allowed them to function as a single unit. This marked the beginning of multicellular life, one of the most important steps in the evolution of complexity. Within these organisms, different cells started performing specialized roles, such as movement, protection, and internal processes. By working together, these cells created stronger, more capable organisms that could survive in changing environments. Some of these early organisms developed the ability to move with intention rather than simply drifting with currents. They also began responding to light, movement, and other environmental changes, showing early forms of awareness. Life was no longer passive, as organisms began actively interacting with their surroundings in increasingly complex ways. The oceans were now filled with movement and interaction, setting the stage for one of the most dramatic periods in evolution. Then came a moment of rapid change, when life diversified at an incredible speed across the oceans of Earth. During the Cambrian explosion, life rapidly diversified, filling the oceans with new and unfamiliar organisms of many different forms. Strange body structures appeared, with segmented bodies, limbs, and shapes, unlike anything seen before in Earth's history. Some organisms developed simple eyes, allowing them to detect light, movement, and changes in their surroundings more effectively. Movement became faster and more controlled as creatures gained the ability to swim with direction and purpose. For the first time, some organisms became predators, actively hunting other life forms instead of simply surviving passively. This created a constant chase where survival depended on speed, awareness, and the ability to escape danger. Every encounter became a matter of life or death, as predators and prey evolved together in a competitive environment. In response, many organisms developed defenses such as shells, armor, and protective structures to survive these threats. An evolutionary arms race began, driving rapid changes as species adapted to outcompete one another. Over time, these chaotic ecosystems stabilized, forming more balanced and structured underwater environments filled with diverse life. The oceans became dominated by advanced marine species that thrived in complex and competitive ecosystems. Among them were early fish-like creatures with defined body structures that improved movement and survival. These organisms could swim faster, change direction quickly, and navigate their environment with greater control. Some species began exploring shallow waters near coastlines, moving closer to the boundary between water and land. This boundary represented a new and unknown world, with opportunities and dangers unlike anything found in the oceans. Certain organisms began adapting to interact with air, taking the first steps towards surviving outside water. Eventually, some fish-like creatures used their fins to push themselves onto land for brief periods. These early amphibian-like organisms could survive both in water and on land, moving between two environments. Life was no longer limited to the oceans, as it slowly began expanding across the surface of the Earth. On land, new environments opened, allowing organisms to explore and adapt to completely different conditions. Simple plant life began to spread, changing the landscape and creating the foundation for future ecosystems. These plants supported early land animals, forming the first interconnected ecosystems on the surface of the planet. Organisms developed stronger limbs and body structures to support movement and survival on solid ground. Reptile-like creatures emerged, thriving in dry environments and adapting to life away from water sources. These organisms could reproduce and survive without returning to water, marking a major evolutionary advancement. But the planet continued to change, forcing life to constantly adapt to new climates and conditions. Small early mammals appeared, surviving in a world still dominated by larger and more powerful creatures. They relied on speed, awareness, and adaptability to survive in challenging and competitive environments. Over time, conditions shifted, creating new opportunities for mammals to expand and evolve further. Mammals continued to expand into different environments, adapting to forests, plains, and changing climates across the planet. Some of these mammals evolved to live in trees, where a new path of development would begin. These early primates developed hands capable of gripping branches with precision and control. Their forward-facing eyes improved depth perception, allowing them to better judge distance and movement. They moved with agility through the trees, showing coordination, planning, and early forms of intelligent behavior. Some began solving simple problems, interacting with objects and their surroundings in deliberate and purposeful ways. Awareness continued to grow as these primates became more responsive and conscious of their environment. Eventually, some left the trees and adapted to life on the ground, facing entirely new challenges. Over time, certain ancestors began standing more upright, changing how they moved and interacted with the world. This new way of movement freed their hands and opened the door to entirely new possibilities. The first humans eventually emerged, walking together across open landscapes and surviving in changing environments. Their hands allowed them to create tools, giving them abilities that went beyond their physical limitations. They learned to control fire, providing warmth, protection, and a new way to prepare food. Their minds grew more advanced, allowing them to observe, remember, and plan for the future. What began as survival slowly became cooperation, as humans formed groups, shared knowledge, and built communities. Across generations, human development accelerated, shaping the world in ways no other species had done before. From simple beginnings, humanity transformed landscapes, eventually building complex societies and modern civilizations. And yet, every human alive today shares the same origin, connected through billions of years of evolution. From microscopic life to conscious beings, this journey is one of the most extraordinary stories ever told. Even now, life continues to change, adapt, and evolve, just as it has since the very beginning. So the question is no longer how life began, but what direction it will take next. If this journey continues, what will life on Earth become in the future? And more importantly, what role will we play in the next chapter of evolution? You've just seen how life evolved from simple cells into humans. If you missed the beginning, watch the full story. From the Big Bang to the birth of Earth and life by clicking the link. And if you're ready to continue, the next episode takes you to the first humans and the start of civilization. So don't forget to subscribe